Shall I start?
Yes, please start.
सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः
Punah punaha,
पुनः पुनः
or you can do punaf punaha,
पुनः पुनः
or punar punaha. Three
or
options.
punar punaha. Okay, I prefer punar punaha.
Because we have joined it in this. If it's separate, then we can keep them separate.
Okay, okay. Punar punaha.
Great, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Is the text visible?
No. No, it's not visible. Yes, visible now.
So I was thinking what we'll do is normally on a Sunday, I'll take a shorter class, about an hour or so, and then last half an hour, if there are any questions, we'll take up the questions first, and then we'll do some chanting practice so that we are not disrupting the rhythm of the class straight away in terms of knowledge, because these are being heard everywhere. So let the knowledge go in one flow, and then chanting, we keep it separate. Saturday, I'll try and keep the whole thing as a class, but if we get concluded at some point earlier than the designated time, then last few minutes we'll take the chanting up also. Is that okay? Right here?
Yes.
And you can clarify any doubts, anything you have, and we'll try and keep the pace of the text. It's difficult for everyone, but I think if you are practicing individually, it should be possible to manage also. Okay? So we will start with where we were. Chapter 2 has started, and in chapter 2 we are seeing that Arjuna is succumbed to his emotional being, his emotional body, as a result of which all his faculties that he has taken a lot of effort to build, the personality that he is, has got paralyzed. His mind is numb. He doesn't know what is his right thing to be done. He doesn't know what is the dharma that he has to follow. His main query is, he's not so collapsed that like we find in the world when people are completely lost, their reasoning in terms of when supposing they've got very angry, then they just blabber anything. Arjuna is not in that kind of a condition. He is in a state of awareness of his own dharma sankat. Dharma sankat is a is actually a recognition of two dharmas, or one dharma and one what I like to do. But धर्म अगर आपके मन में है, धर्म का cognition अगर है, that itself qualifies that you still have some reasoning available with you. You're not collapsed like the people would say emotion जब overpower हो जाता है, when our emotional body is completely taken over by any of the emotions. They can be kind emotions, generous emotions, loving emotions, or they can be emotions of jealousy, hatred, anything, from any extreme to any extreme. If those emotions take us over, then we lose the sight of what is right and wrong to be done. We lose the cognition of व्यवहार हमारा ठीक है कि नहीं उस context में. I'm specifically putting this in Hindi because it's more conveyable. अगर कोई इंसान अपने धर्म को देख पा रहा है और वो पूछ रहा है, that means he's standing before he's taken the will choice, the choice of his will, and he's standing before that, one step before. He knows there is a bifurcation of choices here, and which choice should I be making? Which is shreyas for me? This is a highly intelligent, diligent person. ये बात तो 99.9% लोगों में आती ही नहीं है. So what our conflicts are usually are between two emotions. I have anger, I have fear, I have anxiousness, or I have affection for my child, and yet I have a duty to perform. So we are operating our conflicts within this level. Not that it's not applicable, but to understand the context from where Arjuna is talking is to lift ourselves up most often, to identify with Arjuna as a being, because it is he who is going to ask Krishna very soon in the next verse, what am I to be doing? क्या करने वाली? It's not कि मैं लड़ूं कि नहीं लड़ूं. That's not what he is going to ask. There are questions that establish the level of understanding that a questioner is asking. If he were to just say, tell me, Krishna, should I fight or not fight? He is going to ask that later, but if he's starting from there, should I fight or not fight? That is one level of Krishna can probably give, lad lo, ya mat lado. He's wanting an answer like that. But his question is, here, I am confused with reference to what is my dharam. Dharam ki baat, I'm repeating myself because it is subtle. Dharam ki baat normally, averagely, people do not bring into their context of choice. For all of us, our choices vary, depend upon what दुनिया क्या कहती है, दुनिया में क्या valid है, दुनिया ऐसा सोचती है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है. We refer our choices between what is the world going to be, what is popular notion in the world. लौकिक दृष्टि. अर्जुन का प्रश्न है कि धर्म क्या है? मेरा धर्म क्या बनता है? Very subtle. धर्म क्या मेरा ये बनता है as a Kshatriya who is to represent his people and re-establish law and order in his kingdom? Dharam in his kingdom, that is a Kshatriya dharam. He is a king, a prince, to be in charge of a kingdom and people's welfare. If he has to take the welfare of people into his purview, then he has to fight the war. There is no choice then. But if you change the standpoint and you keep the standpoint of the people who were standing in front of him, his own teacher, उनका गुरु जिनको वो revere करते हैं, his guru and his grandfather Bhishma Pitama standing in front of him, and all these people who he represents anyway, he wants to save the kingdom, to give better life to everyone, and also his own family, his own members that he considers close to him. धर्म क्या ये बनता है कि मैं इनको लड़के establish करूं, because it is not going to be just defeating them, it is the question of killing them to win the war. This is very subtle. It can slip your comprehension very easily. If the question is, should I fight or not fight, what is the standpoint he's taking? His own personal standpoint. But if the standpoint is that my dharma as a Kshatriya tells me to fight, but my dharma as a Shishya of a Guru or my grandfather's grandchild I am, if my dharma is to kill them, to win this war, is that my dharma? Or should I be attending to this dharma and withdraw from the war? If I withdraw from the war, if I even fight and I lose the war, nihatta, I will not raise my arms so that they can defeat me. So my dharma is whether to fight the war and win. For winning, I have to kill them. Or should I avoid fighting? Even if I'm there, I actually lose the war voluntarily.
Have we lost connection? I cannot hear Dipti ji. Anybody can tell?
Yeah,
Or is
Deepti
it?
ji lost connection.
Okay, okay, okay.
Are still here.
Yeah, yeah, okay. I was wondering. Maybe I'm not able to hear.
There. I'm back. Yes, the electricity failed, so the Wi-Fi went. So, Arjuna's dilemma. Are we clear on that? fundamentally, because it's very subtle. It shows the strength of the person. Why is it subtle? Because it shows the strength of a person, the character of a person. Arjun is not a weak person. He's not an emotional person. He's not someone who is not acted on his duties before. For him, acting on duties is sahaj, easy. He doesn't have a conflict because he has to operate on duties. It's natural in his personality because of practice in the past. He's made his personality that he can act on duty. Duties don't bother him. Duties do not stress him. Duties do not trouble him. He's not confused averagely what is to be done. But in this context, धर्म उसका क्या है? क्या वो क्षत्रिय का धर्म पालन करे? Or should he follow the dharma of protecting his elders, of serving his elders? Because if he has to do the dharma of a Kshatriya, then there is killing involved. And therefore the conflict, if it was just a mere losing, defeating them without killing them, he wouldn't have probably gone into such severe conflict. Because they would still be around. He just has to harana hai, marna nahi hai. So now the context is where he is to kill them. So he is asking Arjuna. Arjuna has gone physical, his symptoms have erupted, and he says, I am no longer clear. Yatva jayema yadiva no jayeyuhu. Should I be winning or should I let them win? What should I do? All these people desirous of fighting standing in front of me, the 6th verse of chapter 2. All these people standing in front of me, Dhartarashtraha, referring to all his relatives. He says, should I let them win, O Krishna? That's the deep seat of his confusion. And now 7th verse starts, which is concluding his state of mind. किस स्थिति में है वो? उसके मन की अवस्था क्या है? What is he experiencing? So I will just chant it for now and then we'll practice later. Karpanya doshopahata svabhavaha prachhami tvam dharma sammudha chetah yachreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme Shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. A very beautiful verse which is clinching the context where Krishna is going to start saying. The highlighted words are the important words and almost the whole verse is important, as you can see. I have forced myself not to highlight the others, but you might as well take it's an important verse everywhere. Karpanya doshaha upahata svabhavaha prichhami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yachreyaha syat nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shishyaha te aham chadhi mam tvam prapannam. Now, first and foremost, as we said, when Sanjay is narrating to Dhritarashtra Arjuna's sthiti, he uses the word kripa. And then Krishna pushes Arjuna up and calls that state of his emotion as kalmashaha. It's a dosha. It's not a pure emotion. This confused state of your mind is not agreeable to a wise person, is not agreeable to a person of your stature, Arjuna. So what Sanjaya sees as compassion in Arjuna, Krishna sees from his point as a dosha in Arjuna. How does Arjuna himself see his emotion? He says, Karpanya doshaha, upahata swabhavaha. My natural nature that I have, मेरा जो स्वभाव है, he's telling Krishna, my natural nature that I operate from. What is that natural nature? That natural nature is of a Kshatriya. He is of a Kshatriya dharma. And what are the qualities of a Kshatriya? They have tejas, they have vigor, they have courage, they have fortitude, they have perseverance, they have skill, they have dexterity, they also have thought for others, they work for others. Kshatriya protects the society, protects others. This is Arjuna in a nutshell. He's summarizing his swabhav. He's operated on this. He knows who he is. All of us know who we are. And this is very important verse. I may take some time to elaborate this verse. All of us have our own nature that we identify with as our personality, which has its own strengths and its own weaknesses. But most often, we identify with our strengths. That's what makes us a strong person. Whoever is identifying with their strength becomes a strong person, is perceived in the society as a strong person. Arjun here has been perceived in the society as a very upright, strong person. And when I say strong, in English, it's a very pretentious strength. No. Inward, he's strong. He's strong as in strength of conviction, strength of character. He has a strength of character. He can uphold his thoughts. If he thinks something is right, it is not just based on whims and fancies or likes and dislikes or laukika mata. It is thought over and he stands on that. And then he lives through it. That's the character. He says, my swabhavaha, he's open with Krishna. He's showing his vulnerability at this point. He says, my swabhavaha upahata. Upahata. Hata means, actual meaning would be mar gaya. Upahata means has been overpowered. My actual nature is overpowered. By what? Karpanya doshaha. Karpanya doshaha means same root kripa only. So seen as compassion. Karpanya, as I said before, is that mental weakness. That mental weakness of indecisiveness, not being sure मुझे क्या करना चाहिए, मेरा धर्म क्या कहता है. Once he knows कि उसका धर्म क्या कहता है, he knows what he should do. Once he knows what is his duty, he has no doubt he has to follow his duty. All of us have a doubt where? Mostly. What is my duty? Whether I should follow or not? सारी दुनिया तो ये नहीं करती. Why should I? Do you see the difference? सारी दुनिया तो मनमर्जी करती है. Why should I follow the duty? Especially in a family, it happens a lot. Where one person will say, okay, I am following my duty. The other one is always, so why should I also do? So for average people, the first learning itself from Gita is, पहले तो we have to make our nishtha. Nishtha means we have to be consistent in developing our character around, revolving around a sense of duty. Shastra tells us this. That sense of duty has to be the base of our action. So out of say 100 actions a day, at least 90 plus, depends, 60 plus se shuru karte hain. Maximum actions should be centered on, have they been duty based? Arjun was 99.9 duty based. So he is saying this sense of duty that I normally operate from, I don't have confusion with it. Karpanya dosha has made me this non-understanding of what is my dharma. What should I be doing? What is my duty here? Which is shreyas for me? इस विचार ने, इस थॉट ने इतना मेरे मन को व्याकुल कर दिया है, I'm not able to resolve it. And he's given us reasons in the first chapter. Non-resolution of a confusion on which action is to be based. If it lingers too long, the personality starts to fall. And that's what Arjuna showed. I'm going to repeat myself. Siddhant hai ye. When it comes to action, karam ki baat, first principle is it should be based on duty. That duty, what is my duty? If that confusion lingers for too long, that's the time the mind is what Arjuna is showing has become restless. You call it karpanya dosha. That karpanya word means it is overpowering my judgment, my rationality. मैं ये करूं कि ये श्रेयस है कि ये श्रेयस है. Is this my duty or is this my duty? Am I to fight the war operating on Kshatriya dharma, or am I to prevent the war operating on the fact, the reasons that he's given us in the first chapter, not just as a child to people around him, but even the fact that the whole society will get destroyed. And he gave the reasons that he thought why he should not fight. So, karpanya doshaha, and I'm making a generalization in our context of life, is that state of mind जो हमें बीच में लाके खड़ा कर देते ना, a flow of river. When you have two banks, you can either be on this bank or that bank. If you're going to stay in between, in a flow of river, what is going to happen? You'll be carried away. You get carried away by the flow of water. So that analogy represents the flow of mind, thoughts, life, experiences. Every day you're going to wake up and there's going to be a flow. Your prarabdha is going to open up certain things in life. There is going to be a flow of momentum. You have to be decisive whether this is the right or this is the right. You can take time to discern, but if you're going to stand in between them, ये भी ठीक है, ये भी ठीक है, ये भी गलत है, ये भी गलत है, and you're not able to come to a decision, that is our karpanya dosha. Have I made this clear? Where our own viveka shakti, which should be available to us in terms, situations where it is necessary, when our own viveka shakti is not helping us in situations and circumstances, that state is called karpanya dosha. Is this clear? And you can translate it in any situation of life, in any relation in life. That's viveka buddhi, which I normally have as a swabhav. Whatever little we may have doesn't matter, but we operate with some understanding in our life. Otherwise, it's a mad life. All of us have some understanding of life. All of us have some values we aspire and live with. All of us know what is right and wrong to a certain extent. All of us have an aspiration of a higher, which we form as a base for our actions. That, if my own viveka shakti is not helping me decide what is right and what is not to be done, and keeps me majdhar, in between, that is my karpanya dosha. That, he says, is upsetting my normal flow of nature. And this is a very, Shastra is so beautiful. This is such a psychological truth that even to appreciate this, we need to have some grounding in the scripture. The better a person you are, higher you have risen, anchored, greater is the chance that one small doubt of what is to be done, and if it is not resolved on the proper grounds correctly for that situation, as best as your buddhi can tell you, if your buddhi cannot discern it, that is a karpanya dosha. And it is Arjuna's representing it, is telling us that everybody is subject to this karpanya dosha. There is no exception, only a jnani is an exception. Everybody can succumb to karpanya dosha within themselves. And what is its lakshan? My natural flow of nature inhibits itself. If I'm naturally, supposing, an outgoing person, a cheerful person, objective person, a light-hearted person, and a clear person, and I normally don't have problems with people and I don't give problems, but supposing there is a situation which has upset my natural flow of nature, that becomes karpanya dosha. And it is to be watched. It is to be recognized at the right time. That this is going to be a potential of my fall of the person itself, personality itself. I will slip if my karpanya dosha is not addressed at the right time. He says, this first line is revealing his vulnerability, his acknowledgement. That means he's not deluded. उसे ये नहीं, मुझे नहीं पता मुझे क्या हो रहा है. I don't know what is happening to me. He's not in that state. Like most people would understand emotional state to be. Oh, he goes crying, weeping. His already eyes have become overwhelmed with tears. But even then, and this is a very high state of itself a spiritual development. Arjuna itself is revealing that state where his eyes have become wet. Tears are about to flow. Yet, he wants only what is Shreyas he should operate on. But he is not able to discern what is Shreyas. बहुत subtle बात है. And it should be appreciated at that level. Because he doesn't understand what is Shreyas to be done under this situation. सबके लिए बेहतर क्या होगा? मेरा लड़ना या मेरा ना लड़ना? In the welfare of all, in the welfare of entire situation, what is good for us? Bring it to any context. And this is a daily conflict, daily choice, even at an individual level and at a society level, at a national level, at an international level. This is all the time happening. Then he says, this first line is clear to everybody? What is karpanya dosha? Because then we'll build up on this. That internal weakness, when my own rationality, my own knowledge, my own viveka shakti to discern what is right and wrong, good and bad, if my own viveka shakti that I normally operate from under usual circumstances, when in a special circumstance, my own viveka shakti becomes incapable of guiding me, that is my karpanya dosha, and everybody is subject to it except a purna jnani. A purna jnani, a is English, a purna jnani. One who is fully established in Brahma Vidya. He is only, that is Krishna here for us. So he says, karpanya dosh se, mera jo ye swabhav hai, upahata, has been as if destroyed, as if it's been overpowered completely, and I'm not able to tap into my normal nature. I'm not able to identify with my normal nature. The lakshan that मैं खुद दिखा रहा हूँ, I've never shown before. This is what is a very beautiful, when you're growing up from your, say, young age to, especially when you start taking responsibilities in life, lot of nature erupts that you never knew you had before. When you are in your parents' home, you don't have responsibilities, you have a different nature. The minute you say are married, have a household, or you have some other job, you have some other response, there are certain emotions that erupt that you did not recognize you had before. That is Karpanya dosha. So I'm giving lots of thoughts, lots of ways in which you can identify it. That Karpanya dosha, he says, Prichami tvam. I'm asking you. Prichami. Prich, पूछना. Tvam, आपसे. Krishna ko he's asking. I'm asking you. Dharma sammudha chetaha. My chetaha, my mind, my chetana has got dharma sammudha. Mudha confused regarding dharma. Me whose mind is now confused regarding what is dharma, I'm asking you. Yat shreyaha syat. Tell me, what is shreyas in this context? Nishchitam bruhi tanme. Nishchit karke. Do not give me round and round answers, but Krishna will give round and round only at the end. He doesn't say straight away. Though he has said, but Arjuna is in a state to not interpret what has been said correctly. He's interpreting it still from his disturbed mind. Already Krishna has said, Anarya Jushta ma swargya ma kirtikaram Arjuna. You are not beholding your status of a person. You should get up and come to your swabhav. Then you will know what you have to do. You have known it already in the past. Krishna has already just said that to him. But to Arjuna, his mind is so disturbed still that he's interpreting it from his mind. And it doesn't make sense to him. It's not resolving his confusion. At this level, he doesn't feel that his confusion is resolved. By calling him Anaryam, Ajushtam, Aswargyam, he's only added more Wala. He's added only more insult to the mind. He's made his mind even more disturbed rather than solving which is dharma and what am I to do. So to Arjuna, he's still confused. And so he says, Nishchitam. Krishna, Nishchit. Give me one answer. Bruhi tanme. By you, what is Shreyas for me to do? Shreyas is always what is superior, what is better. Shreyaha. Throughout the Gita, he is going to use the word Shreyas. What is better for me? And that better cannot mean just material better, emotional better. It means spiritually uplifting me. In the long run, what is going to be the right decision to stand by? So many people, for example, in dunya mein, I'm giving a very dunya ka example. If they start on some, say, business plan without any proper action plan, proper research, proper action, without studying the project well enough, bas shuru ho jata. Because yahi hum karna hai. This is what we'll do. And then what will happen? That time they feel this is what they're capable of doing. But is it Shreyas? Is it their nature? Are they qualified? Do they have the capacity? Do they have the perseverance to see through, make the business successful? They don't think that far. So here Arjuna is showing by asking what is Shreyas for me in the long run. For me in the sense for everyone. Tanme, he says, I'm asking you. Shishyaha te aham. I am your Shishya. Chadhi mam prapannam. Give me proper Shadhi, instruct me. Tvam prapannam. I am surrendering, taking refuge under your buddhi. Guide me. this Shastra says, Shishyaha is one who is ready to get Shishyatvam hona chahiye. Means he is ready to be taught, receive. He is ready to receive. Shiksha yogyaha iti shishyaha. शिक्षा योग्य शिष्य कौन है जो शिक्षा के योग्य है मीन्स योग्य कौन होता है who is ready to receive. This tradition says is very important. We may be breaking the tradition somewhere. According to tradition, especially when it comes to Shastra, there is a rule. I haven't been able to find the source of this rule, but there is a rule which says na aputra na putraya shishyaya vai punaha. Do not teach if he is not your son or your shishya. If he is not ready to learn, if he is not accepting shishyatvam, do not teach shreyaha. What is shreyas? Do not give it to someone who is not ready to be a student. शिष्य के शिष्यता जिसमें नहीं है, शिक्षा लेने का योग्यता नहीं है. And what is one sign कि वो शिक्षा नहीं लेगा? What is that one sign? In the invocation we see that.
They should be humble. They should.
Okay. In the invocation it says,
Let us not hate each other. Let us not have dvesh with each other.
so let us not argue. So that samvada, and yes, someone reminded me that vivada, samvada is Arjun, Krishna, samvadaha. Because Arjun here has accepted shishyatvam. If you don't accept shishyatvam, then anything Shastra will say is not something that is acceptable to your normal senses. Normal laukik vyavahar, and for all of you who has, why I did the Charvaka is so that we are able to identify what is a laukik drishti. There's a lot of thoughts that may build up around it, but now when you are able to see what say world says, dunya says, if Shastra is going to say the same thing, then what is the need of Shastra? It's redundant. No? It's not necessary. Shastra is saying that thing which normally a person will not be able to discern by themselves. Normally ki baat nahi hai. Cannot discern by themselves. So whatever the knowledge world will float based on their sensory knowledge is not what Shastra will give. So it is anyway going to be against your buddhi, natural buddhi. Unless you have a lot of purva samskar and shraddha in the Shastra. Unless until that purva samskar has brought you to the knowledge, seeking knowledge. And that is why who in the Shastras drishti is a guru? What is Krishna? He is not a guru who is doing miracles. He is not a guru who is going to be, etc., management or this or that, blah, blah, blah. You understand the vague terms. Shishyaha. He is going to teach him. What is he going to teach him? He is going to teach him that knowledge by which Arjun's swabhav of his own Viveka Shakti will resurrect. So that he can guide his own self. that he doesn't need someone to guide him always. Am I making that clear? So who is a Shishyaha? Shastra says the one who's ready to be instructed, taught. There is another one, I'm not able, there's so many points I've written here that so he says such a one is Arjuna, and he says Shadhi Mam. Shadhi means here I am ready to be taught, protected. Teach me. When you will instruct me, I will understand. I will take my best effort to understand and follow the teaching. Shadhi Mam Tvam Prapannam. I am allowing my vulnerability to express my confusion, my doubt, my dharma sankat. I'm opening it up. Why? So that you are able to tell me correctly what is Shreyas. I trust that this, fortunately for him, Krishna is there. So it was easy for him. But he earned it. A lot of people say, oh, Arjuna was so lucky. For him, it is easy. Where do you find a guru in the world? Correct. It is the most difficult thing to find. If the Shishya and the Guru combination is a very rare thing. Arjuna and Krishna is extremely rare. Arjuna has earned it, so he has it. Why does he have Bhagwan there in front of him to tell him? And a Bhagwan who has been a Sarthi for him. It's so easy to say, ki, Are, this Arjuna had Krishna, therefore, in spite of it, he took 18 chapters, 700 verses, before he said, so blah. So, Karpanya doshaha upahata svabhavaha prichhami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yat shreyaha syat nishchitam bruhi tan tat me. Tell me. You tell me. What is that tat? That shreyas. Shishyaha te aham shadhimam tvam prapanna. This karpanya, as I said, some teachers, because Shankara hasn't written a commentary here up to this point, so there is Tika, Anandgiri Tika. They give us some pointers in their commentaries to tide over difficult words, means understand them correctly. Karpanya, what do you understand? So Anandgiri Tika, Anandgiri is one of the Tikakars. So Bhashyam is Shankara. On it are various Tikas like comments on the Bhashyam. So Anandgiri says, who is a Kripanaha? He says, a Kripanaha is one, I'll just say the Sanskrit line and then I'll explain it. Anaya Kripaya Kinchidapi Vittasya Kshatim Chantu Na Shakyate. In one word of English, he's a miser. Means whatever wealth he has, but he's not able to spend it. He keeps that Hindi mein kanjoos kind. So how does that fit into this context? What is that? He says the spiritual karpanyata means adhyatmik karpanyata kya hai? Where when your own wisdom and your own self-effort or when your own right thinking suddenly has been withdrawn. You're not able to use it. There's an inhibition. Kanjoos miser kaun hai? He has, but there is an inhibition. That inhibition of one's own faculty is Karpanya. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is the right meaning. There, the meaning of Karpanya is, I'll now first give the translation. He says to Gargi, Yagnavalkya says to Gargi, he says, Gargi, he says, if you die without gaining Brahma Vidya, you are Kripanaha. There is no greater Kripanaha than you. If you die without gaining Brahma Vidya, you have Karpanya dosha. Yova etad aksharam. Yaha va, or yaha, whoever, etat aksharam, this akshara vidya, knowledge of Brahman. You are Brahman, that knowledge. O Gargi, viditva, janna, bina jane, aviditva, asman loka, from this world, asman lokat praiti, when you die, when you go from this world, without knowing aksharam, saha kripanaha. He is the greatest kripana. So what really are all these meanings coming to? So first I have given in the context of Arjuna. How does he feel? What is his dharma sankat? But the same kripanaha in the context of Upanishad will say it in the sense of your incapacity to know who you are, and if you waste your life without knowing it, then you are a kripanaha. You have that dosh. And from a vyavharik drishti, laukik drishti, who is a kripanaha? The one who is a miser. That inhibition that he has of his own capacities, capabilities, that one is a miser. So, here in this verse, you can note, when we do the summary, we'll bring it up. Tishyatvam has got established. And as I said, throughout Shastra you see, no Upanishad starts just by teacher teaching. No Upanishad starts. ये तो वाकई में कलयुग है. The way we are studying and the way I still have I'm acknowledging it. I know it's all on YouTube everywhere now, but I'm acknowledging it's still a dharma sankat for me, whether these classes should be given like this or not. Vedanta can be taught like this or not. You are continuing because at this point it's an accepted thing, but is it really what Shastra would want from a student's perspective, from a learner's perspective? He says that shishyatvam, readiness to be taught, and readiness ka sabse pehla lakshan should be what? Acknowledging that I do not know. Understand, that's what Arjuna said. I don't know. I don't know what is good for me. And someone who knows, I have to seek advice or permission or help. So someone who knows can only tell me. What should they know? If my confusion is on dharma, then someone who knows dharma can tell me. If my confusion is on how to make something, then that teacher will tell me that is my level of confusion. It will be sorted there. So unless and until someone knows that you want there is a transitional seeking. One seeking is at the level of the Sharira Yatra. Sharir Yatra means is dunya ko, जीवन को चलाने के लिए I need some knowledge. One is that seeking. The other seeking is absolutely above, different from it. It has nothing to do with dunya. I can manage my life. I know how to run the life. I have enough knowledge. Whatever there is, dunya cannot be expected to be other than what it is. I have a resolved thinking here. I can't expect anything else from the world other than how it is. Any expectation here of happiness is foolishness on my part. Sustained happiness. Short-term happiness? Yes, of course. Sustained happiness? Any expectation that I will never be unhappy? Stupidity on my part. Any expectation that others should understand me? Stupidity on my part. Any thought that, others should be caring for me? If you have it, you're a lucky person. Short-term, everything will be Shanikam. Now here, not there. So, what is really sought? Brahma Vidya is the topic. A lot of people, as I have always said, it is still a lot of debate. Because Gita, for the sake of Brahma Vidya, most of the people are not even prioritizing the knowledge. Even in this format, where everything is now available at your comfort. And this is the knowledge I keep reminding myself. It's nothing to do with anyone else. This is the knowledge for which people left their homes, left their careers, left their families, left their comfort, sought into this unknown Himalayas, went trying to find, or went to Varanasi, wherever they are supposed to be hubs of knowledgeable people, completely into the unknown, plunged their life. They don't know if they'll even find the learned person. And that is why that priority of this is Bhagavan Uvacha. I would fail to convey my full duty if I do not convey this point. This is soon going to be Bhagavan Uvacha. Next to next verse, very soon, 2 verses down the line. Which means the value of that knowledge. शिष्य कौन है? अगर हम शिष्य ही नहीं बने तो कृष्ण जो कह रहे हैं वो हम कौन सी बुद्धि से लेंगे? Am I making sense or am I? Good. So if Shishyatvam here is what was pointed to throughout tradition, I don't think I'm doing it. Every teacher will point this. Because that's the teaching of the Shastra. Why does Vyasa put the word? Arjuna and Krishna were friends. As friends, a lot of people exchange their, good, he's a opinion or advice. But Vyasa puts the word Shishyaha. You have to bring the context of these two who have spent, they were relatives, cousins, relatives also. Close friends. शिष्यत्वम लेने की क्या जरूरत थी अर्जुन को? He could have just said, "Hey Krishna, बताओ मैं क्या करूं?" Like you ask your friend, he could have said that. Because the parampara says, if you're not asked, don't open your mouth. In Kena Upanishad, Keneshatam patati preshatam manaha Kena pranaha prathama praiti yuktaha. Mundaka Upanishad also, Kasminnu bhagavo vigyate sarvam idam vignatam bhavati. Tell me, what is Mundaka Upanishad saying? What is that one knowledge by knowing which I will know everything? He starts the question, then teacher starts the answer. Education. That's why Shastra is not a blind belief. It's not a blind following. It's not devotion based alone. Devotion is truly an outcome as a byproduct because you understand the value that this education has in your life. Devotion erupts. You can't say I have devotion without understanding. That is truly blind. Here he says, Tishyasteham Shadhi Mam Tvam Prapannam. Only a Shishya. And there is also another beautiful word for Shishya. I'm able to recollect now. Beautiful description it is. hits you very hard, well enough to say that I don't know where it's lost. So, as far as this is concerned, I think we are now fairly clear. Shadhi means instruct me, teach me. And then he says, he just concludes it to say, Nahi nahi prapashyami mamapanudyat yat shokamuchoshanam indriyanam avapya bhumavasapatnamritham rajyam suranam api chadhipatyam. This is nahi, indeed he, na hi prapashyami mama apnudya yat shokam uchoshanam indriyanam avapya bhumau asapatnam riddham rajyam suranam apicha adhipatyam. He says, na prapashyami, I am not able to see. Mama apnudyat. Apnudyat means that which will be, which will remove, which will, Hindi mein it is jo dhakka de dega. Remove is a very mild word, means ये जो मेरे मन में जो शोक है क्या धक्का देगा? Yat shokam, this shock that my mind has got overwhelmed with, this grief that I'm experiencing at the thought of fighting this war, this depressed mind that I have now, this anxiousness that I have, this lowness that I feel, what इसको क्या हटाएगा? मुझे नहीं दिख रहा. I cannot find a solution for myself. A lot of us, when you are feeling not so good and you call up your friend, you're feeling low in your mood, you call up your friend. What is your friend's advice? Normally speaking, averagely. क्या कहेगा कोई? पिछली बार तो हमने कहा था शॉपिंग चले जाएंगे.
कहीं वो बोलेगा चलो कहीं अब खाने
कॉफी पे
पीने
चलते हैं।
चलते हैं, ड्रिंक्स पे चलते हैं.
कुछ माइंड को डिस्ट्रैक्ट कर लो. Do
Chill
something.
करो.
हाँ, distract your mind. Do something else. मन को कहीं और लगा लो. अर्जुन says, मुझे दिख ही नहीं रहा कि मैं इस मन को कहाँ लगाऊं. और it has got so overpowered that alternate is not seen. I can't see where else can I put this mind. मेरा शोक has overpowered me. What will, उसको क्या धक्का देगा शोक को, मुझे नहीं पता. Plus uchoshanam, my indriyas are drying up, my senses are drying up. His mouth is parched, his skin is getting dried up, he's losing his sense awareness. And when you're very confused, if a person is overcome by grief, कहते नहीं, where am I? कहाँ हैं हम? 2 minutes, that cognition shakes up, no? Isn't it? You feel them saying that cognition of time and space has got lost. Yes. 2 minutes, where am I? Who's there? What is there? So he says, this indriyas, I've got disoriented. He's in the middle of the battlefield. People are ready with their bows and arrows and their respective instruments. And he's saying, I'm getting disoriented with reference to my senses also. They're not perceiving correctly. This is a very beautiful indicator of a mind which is disturbed. That is why all spiritual practices keep the mind first healthy. All meditation, upasanas, karmas, in general terms, sevas, whatever spiritual value when you bring it in your life, the first thing it does is it anchors your senses and your mind first. And if you don't have these values, spiritual values, then any situation that upsets the fulcrum, the balance of your mind, he says that's where disorientation of the senses happens. Senses are disoriented. That connection of the senses and my placement over there, what I should do, what I should say, all that gets lost. So he says, my indriyas are drying, it's drying up my senses also, even at the thought of avapya, having obtained, milke, milne ke baad, what bhumau, all this bhumi, kingdom, asapatnam. Asapatnam means once I've obtained it, there'll be no shatru left, unrivaled. Well, everybody would have been killed. So I will get the Rajyam, who will have no fear of any Shatru ever taking it again. That kind of a Rajyam. Monarch he is. Not only just a Rajyam, he says, Ritham Rajyam. It will be prosperous. It will have all comforts and welfare. Such a Rajyam. Also, Api. Suranam Api. Adhipatyam. Even if you make me the lord of Adhipatyam, ruler of Suranam, all the gods, even then I do not know. Na prapashyami mama apnutyat yat shokam uchoshanam indriyanam. What is drying up my senses, this grief that is drying up my senses, disorienting me, I do not know what is going to remove this grief, displace this grief. Even if I get the kingdom unrivaled, and even if you make me the king of all the gods, even then, ये मेरे मन की जो अभी स्थिति है, मेरे मन की जो अभी अवस्था है, even if I get the kingdom of gods, will it shake this avastha? I'm not sure. I do not know. I don't think so, he's saying. Even if I get the kingdom of even if I become the king of the gods, even then will it displace this dharma yuddha that I have now entertained, got, because of which I have the suffering. Therefore, he says, he's already said, I am your Shishya. Bowing down, you can visualize it. Now his arms have already been given up. His Gandiva has fallen. His sweating, his horripilations. He's shaking, trembling. His mind is completely overpowered. And now he says, instruct me, O Krishna. What am I to do? And therefore, then Sanjaya is going to conclude, which we will do next time. A question was asked last time. Bhavna had asked that question. Remembered and now I've forgotten again. Can you quickly write that question again? How does righteousness make you strong? I think that's the question. How does righteousness make you strong? I think that's the question. Righteousness means following dharma, capacity to follow dharma. उसी का नाम righteousness है ना. धर्मो रक्षति रक्षतः. I just kind of hinted in the class also today. For anyone to choose a path of dharma, you need a very strong character and will. You need to have the capacity to stand parallel to what the world is saying and doing. That inner wisdom has to be there. Based on that, you are following dharma. That dharma itself is a higher pursuit and more beneficial than following what the world follows. Artha and kama is not the end of life. Dharma is the starting of your spiritual life, not even the end of spiritual life. You cannot say, I will start spiritual I will gain spiritual benefits if I don't even follow dharma in life. So a righteous person, one by the very conscious choice of always standing for his own conviction, becomes strong inside. The second way he becomes is when dharma itself he sees is what gives him everything, protects him genuinely. I mean, this is something only those followers of dharma will know. The sayers of dharma may not know, but the followers of dharma know how dharma protects them. In the oddest of situations, because they followed some dharma in the past, a difficult situation, they find it was that dharma that they followed has protected them. And this law cannot be explained in more words than this, because it's purely a subjective acknowledgement. That connection is seen by yourself because the effort you put in to follow the dharma. So righteousness will always make you a strong person. Also, you know that because dharma rakshati, there is a certain fearlessness that actually comes in. It's not a indifference ka fearlessness. It's acknowledgement that you doing what you ought to be doing. You know the laws work. Therefore, how can anything go wrong? There's a certain fearlessness that comes because of your contact with your own higher being, your own higher self in that sense. So automatically, there's more courage, there is more conviction, there is more steadfastness, and that is what makes you stronger. So righteousness makes you stronger in that sense. Is that okay? And there is so the toss-up, I think I've already explained, is between dharma of a warrior and also of the consequences of the war that is going to fall upon everyone. So the child part of it is only a very small personal loss. It's not the only criteria on which he's got this confusion. And that is what his confusion is all about. So is that okay, everyone? Should we do a little chanting now? I think I'll end here. The next two verses we'll do tomorrow and then summarize if necessary. Otherwise, move on. And if you have any question, you can ask first before we start the chanting. Neetu, sorry.
Yeah, did someone say? I can ask.
Where do you want me to start the chanting from? The beginning of the chapter?
1 minute first. Yeah, Priyanka, you said something.
Yeah, so you were talking about who is the ideal shishya, and then you said if you are not asked, don't open your mouth. But I feel that in today's samsar, people don't even know what they're supposed to ask.
Yeah.
So can you not sometimes open your mouth?
You should, if that person is in any way looking up to you, or is in any way you are obliged in any way. So these two characteristics will then, yeah, you can take the liberty of trying it out. If it works, it works. Otherwise, understand that the law is, it can come back at you. It can rebuke you back.
But most of the time they say
Unsolicited advice, हम दुनिया में भी कहते हैं, unsolicited advice is never heeded. It's very cheap. It's, in fact, because it's unsolicited, it looks as if it's not an advice. So the value for that advice is also not there.
But sometimes you care about somebody and you want to give them the advice. Like here it said, if it's not your son, but it could be your sibling or your parent for that matter, and you know.
So yeah, instead of son, you can replace that. In other words, to someone to whom you are related by obligation also. Once you're related, you have an obligation, a blood relation or by law relation. So yes, definitely. But there is a purpose why they said this. It only increased the adhikaritvam of the Shishya before he sought the knowledge. Throughout you will see, when does a parent become a mother becomes a mother and a father becomes, who makes a mother and a father? The birth of a child. The birth of a child gives you the status of a mother or a father. Before that, you're the same person. In the same way, Shastra says there is no one called a teacher. It is the birth of a student that makes a teacher. अगर शिष्य नहीं है तो कोई टीचर है ही नहीं. अगर कोई शिष्य है, that is why he says, if you are ready to receive, teacher will arrive at your doorstep. Because if you are in a shishya receiver mode of you want knowledge, you know that, or whatever you seek, that is filled in. So if a teacher teaches thinking, everybody, Krishna himself waited for 70 plus years before he could give the Gita. He's waited the whole first chapter. Arjun कुछ भी बोले जा रहे हैं. And Krishna is waiting. Only if he says, please tell me what is to be done, will I tell him. Uddhav also, he says only when Uddhav asks him. Uddhav Gita is also very beautiful in that sense. Only when Uddhav, but the contents are so different that you even wonder if it's the same teacher. This is more based on straight into Vedic karma and how to translate it into today's life. Uddhav is much more generalized because there's no emergency situation when Uddhav asks. Here, this is an emergency situation.
That is one of Krishna's friends that had asked?
Yeah. His bachpan ka friend. So, that is this. Is that any question?
Deepti I have one question.
Anji.
You said that, in today's world, whether it is right for me to do classes like this, because you have to be a shishya and you have to understand. In the olden days, there used to be, you have to go to gurukuls and then only get this information. But don't you think that because of so much of Kali Yuga today, isn't it somewhat, at least people are able to get this knowledge, whoever are aligned to this knowledge, by this method, at least more people can get this knowledge. Don't you think like that? Don't you think that's another way?
Yeah, no, this is only reason why we do it. Otherwise, there was no reason for it.
Okay.
The fact is that, yes, nobody is going to be, nobody's, in today's world, then definitely times have changed, preoccupations have changed, values have changed, a lot of things have changed. So, what is important, changeless thing, doesn't matter the mode. What is a changeless thing that should sustain?
Right. As long as a person is attuned to something like this, he is getting an opportunity to get this knowledge in some way or the other. That's what I feel.
And should have the value for it as high as that people in the past have renounced things for this knowledge.
Right.
And if I'm getting it in a comfortable place, doesn't mean that I should bring the value of the knowledge down.
Yeah.
The priority of the knowledge actually should be the highest.
Correct.
It should supersede everything else. And then the receptivity of the knowledge also changes. The transaction changes. As I said, there is no teacher. How the teacher gets, what knowledge comes out of the teacher, what gets transacted is dependent upon who's sitting in front. Material will be the same.
Yes.
The same state of mind. संजय कुछ और देखते हैं, कृष्ण कुछ और देखते हैं, अर्जुन कुछ और देखते हैं.
Correct. Very, very true.
Siddharth has a
Deepti ji.
question. Siddharth has a question, then Akanksha.
Yeah, is my voice coming? All right, all right. So, because we were talking about Shishyatvam, I wanted to ask that the seeking is there, a certain understanding is there underlying that I want this knowledge, and this knowledge is extremely important. But there are also distractions, a lot of them. So, how to nurture this Shishyatvam so that it grows stronger with time?
Yeah. There are two formats. In this particular format, this is getting you ready for that. So slowly over the years, automatically the value you will start seeing it differently. Because at this present point, the distractions are okay. It's good to be acknowledging them. And along with them, you are pursuing it. So slowly, as your knowledge will expand, your internal digestion of the knowledge will take place, your own application will happen, as in the change of your mindset will happen of looking at certain things. Automatically, the value enhances. So you don't have to do anything more than that. Just sticking to understanding what is there is complete. Shastra is complete in its own method of communication. We don't have to transgress and try new things. It's a complete project. Attending live classes will definitely be helpful rather than attending recordings. Absolutely. That is why otherwise I can make YouTube videos and just put them one verse at a time. Beach mein I thought about that also. Instead of taking a class, I said, let me just do one verse, make a video, every verse make a video and put it up on YouTube. जिसको सुनना है सुनेगा, जिसको benefit लेना है लेंगे. That is like now you've really come down that you can't even represent. No? But that's another way. The advantage of the older method, there is one advantage. This has its advantages. This is slower, but you can have a thoroughness about it. The advantage is that जब तक तुम जलते नहीं हो अंदर से for knowledge, so all the preparation is beforehand. And when you are ready, it's like the fruit. When it's ready, it falls. It's ripe, it falls. When your antakaranam is ready to receive it, then automatically सब छूट जाता है. In fact, I have completely avoided the word vairagyam in this context deliberately, because a lot of people take this state of Arjuna as vairagyam, false vairagyam. Since we've done Tattvabodh, some of us at least you would understand. I spent a lot of time trying to say what is right and what is wrong. Viveka based is the right vairagyam. That is how it used to be. विवेक से आपको छोड़ने में दिक्कत नहीं है. But where vairagyam is not there, and if you leave it, then स्वभाव में बदलाव आएगा, and that you should never do. You have to first let your personality be developed fully, like Arjun it should be, and then the knowledge replaces the right attitudes, makes the corrections. Is that okay, Siddharth? Any other question? Akanksha, you were saying something?
Hanji, Deepti ji. I was wanting to ask, would it be correct to say that when you looked at the Kenopanishad and the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the definitions of Kripana, एक में आपने कहा कि
Can I stop 1 minute? Kena Upanishad was not the definition of Kripana.
Okay.
In our Upanishad,
Okay.
this is the definition of Shishya. Well, a
Hanji,
Shishya will
sorry.
ask a question. It is just a mantra starting. I'm quoting only a mantra to say that he
Hanji, Hanji,
asks, therefore the teacher says. But Vedaramata is Kripanaha, yes.
Hanji. So in the Kripanaha, where Yajnavalkya tells Gargi that if you die without gaining Brahma Vidya, then there is no greater Kripana than you. Is it because जैसे हमने कहा कि कृपणा क्या है, वो माइजर है, वो होते हुए भी उसको यूज नहीं कर पा रहा, उसी तरह आपकी आत्मा है और उसको होते हुए भी आप उसको पहचान नहीं पा रहे, शायद इसीलिए उसको कृपणा कहा.
Very good. Very good. Yes. In knowing you are this, Atma, is a possibility now. आप already हो. And without investing your time and energy and life into that knowledge, you are keeping your attention on external things, जो वैसे भी छूटेगी. वो तो है नहीं आपके साथ. And spending your whole attention on them, the whole day, whole attention, whole life only on external things, without knowing what is already there with you. The greatest, richest thing possible. You are an infinite wealth. अपने स्वभाव को जाने बिना सारा अपना स्वभाव यूज करना, it's a using your स्वभाव for external things. You're very good, very good. Correct. Excellent. Okay. Uh, Neetuji, you can chant 5 verses first.
Yes. Starting from the first?
Yeah, ji. First 5.
Okay, okay. ॐ श्रीपरमात्मने नमः अथ द्वितीयोऽध्यायः साङ्ख्ययोगः अर्जुन उवाच तन्तथा कृपयाविष्टम् अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणम् विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदनः श्रीभगवानुवाच कुतस्त्वाकश्मलमिदं विषमे समुपस्थितम् अनार्यजुष्टमस्वर्ग्यम् अकीर्तिं करमर्जुन क्लैब्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते श्रुद्धं हृदयदौर्बल्यं त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप अर्जुन उवाच कथं भीष्महमं सङ्ख्ये द्रोणं च मधुसूदन इषुभिः प्रतियोत्स्यामि पूजार्हावरिसूदन गुरून् हत्वा हि महानुभावा श्रेयो भोक्तुं भैक्षमपीह लोके हत्वार्थकामांस्तु गुरूनिहैव भुञ्जीय भोगान् रुधिरप्रदिग्धान्.
Excellent, very good. This
Thank
2,
you
3.
so much.
This 2, 3.
Yes.
सबसे पहले first verse, what uvacha did you say?
Sanjay Uvacha.
By mistake, I think you pronounced Arjuna uvacha. Correct, Sanjay
Really?
uvacha.
Okay.
And Arjun, can you say this? Arjun.
Arjun.
It's not Arjun. In Hindi, it's Arjun. In Sanskrit, it is Arjuna.
Arjuna.
That na has an akara also with it.
So it's Arjuna Uvacha.
Correct. Arjuna uvacha. Right.
Uvacha.
Right.
Arjuna
And
Vacha.
one more. Yeah. Ishubhihi pratiyotsyami. You did it correctly also, but alternatively, Ishubhif.
Bif. Okay, okay. Issue
That's
Bif.
little less than what I just said it. I said it loudly so that you can hear. Ishubhif pratiyotsyami.
That is which verse?
Fourth verse, second line.
Okay. Both. Ishu Bif Pratiyotsyami Pujarhavari Sudana.
And also the first line. Do the first
Yeah.
pada again.
Okay. Katham Bhishmamam Sankhe. I'm not able to do that
Yeah.
Bhishmamam.
Bhishmamaham.
Bhishmamaham Sankhe. Okay. Bhishmamaham Sankhe. Dronam cha Madhusudana.
Correct. Very good. Excellent. So we'll end the
Thank you so
class.
much.
Excellent. Very good. Keep it up, all of you. Tomorrow, whoever wants to, if you can do the first 7 verses at the end. Who wants to do? You can practice till then if anybody wants to.
I can do.
First to 7. And I think I'll end the class a little early. Then if someone wants to follow it, Aditi or Arora Uncle or someone, then you can, Priyanka can read it for them. So 7 verses tomorrow, 1 to 7.
Okay.
Neetuji, can you conclude the class?
Okay, okay. सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः
I am ending. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dipti ji.
No question.